Hey, what's going on everybody? It's MF Buddy. I'm back with another video to help you master your zero build gameplay. In this video, I am going to speak just to controller players. So if you're a mouse and keyboard player, just maybe don't watch the video unless you want to support the video, in which case, carry on. I wanted to give controller players who are looking to improve their gameplay a few tips, and I think that these kind of really cover how to improve if you're playing on controller. So I hope that this video helps you. If you do find it helpful, make sure to smash the like button. Leave me a comment on what you took away from this, and most importantly, subscribe for more zero build content just like this. So let's get into it. In my opinion, there are three pillars that I think that you need to look at when it comes to improving on controller. I'll go ahead and tell you these three pillars now, and then we'll kind of touch on, all three of them. The first pillar would be, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, but if you're looking to improve on controller, you're going to need optimal binds. The second one that we are going to touch a little bit on is optimal sensitivity. And the final one that we'll look at is really understanding aim assist. I'm going to give you guys a few tips on how you can start to understand it, become aware of it, and how to use it to your advantage. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. So first thing we'll touch on is optimal binds. So when we're talking about optimal binds, really the goal of having the most optimal binds is exactly what it talks about, being optimal, being able to do the most amount of actions precisely, effectively, quickly, right? And so, by default, and I'm talking to controller players again, remember. So by default, let's just say I'm using basic binds and I'm holding the controller in a very basic grip. So X, right, on the controller for me, I'm on a PlayStation controller, is going to be jump, but I have to aim with my right joystick, okay? If I'm in a fight with somebody and I'm simply just trying to aim on the right joystick, but I have to move my thumb over to the buttons and hit X, you're gonna see a lot of like shaky, having to re-aim type movement, right? So whoa. But yeah, so you're shooting this guy, but a lot of it is like, look at the aim. It's one action of aim at a time, okay? So I'm shooting, but I'm also trying to jump. But every time I jump, my thumb is coming off the right joystick, and I'm again to do another action of aiming, okay? Ideally, we want to be able to be doing all of that all at once, okay? Now, I play on a controller with back paddles, and that allows me to be more optimal knowing that I have back paddles, because one of my back buttons can be bound and I can make this now my X button instead of having to actually hit the X button, okay? So if you don't have a pro controller, my suggestion is first get one if you can. They really absolutely are a game changer and have made me 500% better at the game. And that's not exaggeration. Now, if you don't have a pro controller, some of the things that I would consider is leveraging the buttons right here on your joysticks. I know that this controller is upside down. Well, let me just turn it around. But yeah, leverage these buttons right here, clicking down, and attach them to something to do with movement, okay? So maybe on your joystick, you make it crouch or you make it jump. But either way, when we optimize binds like that, in terms of fighting, you go from this, okay? You're like one aim at a time, one action at a time, right? You go from that to being able to stay on the opponent at all times, right? Without breaking a sweat. Just constantly one movement of aim. And that's what we want. That's optimal. Optimal is being able to track as well as do another action at the exact same time, and it actually just feel normal and make sense, okay? Now, just to tell you guys a little bit about what I used to do before I had a pro controller, I still used X as jump, right? And I just like really tried to work on my aim, and I made the most of it, all right? But there was still crouch and there was still sprint that needed to be handled and addressed. So when it came to crouch, I had crouch over here on my left joystick, and I had sprint as right on my D-pad, okay? So like, look, right on my D-pad, sprint. The way that I hold the controller looks similar to this. My index finger is taking care of the sprint, right? And then my thumb would be taking care of crouch. So I would do like this and learn how to fight with those binds. And for the most part, before I had back pedals, that was about as optimal as I could get. So without back pedals, I'm just gonna tell you straight, you're not gonna be able to get the most optimal experience out of controller unless like you're playing claw or some type of, different grip. I think it's possible with a certain type of grip based off what you choose to hold the controller as. But for me, I held it normal. So for me, unless I got back paddles, there really wasn't any getting more optimal than that. So the goal really is to watch what other players are doing. Then you can see what is possible. And then you have to look at whether or not you're able to do that, okay? So again, if I'm like having to take my thumb off the joystick and reset, it's not optimal for aim. Then you're like, a lot of it becomes flicking as opposed to just tracking, right? And that's really what we want, is we want tracking. That's huge right there. You're going from flicking because you have to move back to your joystick, and now you're going into just tracking an opponent night and day. This is going to help out with your aim so much, okay? Another key thing with it, and we're gonna talk about aim assist later in the video, but another key thing to this is your ability to keep your thumb on this joystick is going to keep the aim assist active, okay? All right, we're gonna talk more about that, but that's a huge thing right there, is you're wanting to make sure your thumb stays on the joystick, keeping it moving, because that's what keeps aim assist going, and that is going to benefit you as a controller player immensely. All right, next thing that let's talk on really quick. Optimal sensitivity. Basically, what we mean by that is being able to get the absolute most out of your sensitivity for hip fire, for close range combat, for tracking somebody through the air, for being able to move quickly, turn around fast, right? We want to be able to optimize all that. Now, I do have a settings video that you guys can check out, and you can see the settings that I have been playing on. But what I really want to stress right here is to watch other people play, other controller players play, because if you see somebody playing on controller, if they're doing something with their tracking that you're not able to do, it should be communicating to you that something else is possible other than what you're doing and where you're at, okay? For sensitivity, I actually want to come into this aim trainer, Scavix aim trainer. This is a phenomenal aim trainer map if you don't have access to something like Aim Labs or Kovacs. But here's kind of some of the stuff that I want to point out about sensitivity. And again, optimal binds play into you getting the most out of a sensitivity. The better your binds are, the more control that you can have over your sensitivity, okay? For example, right here, let's look at vertical tracking, okay? So if you see somebody like able to track this, right? And they're like shredding it. What you want to do is like take note of some of this stuff, and you're like, all right, that is actually possible. So I want my aim to look like that, okay? Also in aim trainers, some of these don't have aim assist, and it's intentional, so you could actually work on your raw aim. It's a little side note. But this is some of the stuff that you'll need to work on, and you'll have to dial in your sense when you're working on some of this stuff, right? So for example, if I changed my sensitivity up and all of a sudden, like, let's say I turned it down and my hip fire was looking like this, trying to keep up with this guy, right? And I just kept falling behind at like a full, like, you know, down, like holding the stick all the way down. You would just need to know, like, okay, I need to bump my my sensitivity up a little bit because I should be able to track this guy, okay? Now, ideally, you don't want to be tracking this guy with the stick like fully pushed down, right? Vertical tracking, you want to find a sense where you're kind of like doing it in the halfway, right? So you're not, your stick's not fully pushed over, but you're definitely moving it down. And these are like micro, but again, optimal sensitivity means that you can make optimal plays and capitalize and do a lot of damage in more situations, okay? What I would recommend for someone is, if you're not playing on advanced settings, first off, you need to be playing on advanced settings, okay? Don't trust just like the 1 through 10 thing. Like, that's absolute doo-doo. It's just bad, okay? Now, my recommendation is that if you're on controller, to again turn on these advanced options, right? Start from somewhere like this. Now, this is a very low sense, but for some people, this actually might be doable. Now, this isn't the sense that I play on. Again, you can check my video out to see what I've been playing on. But for most people on linear and on Expo, you will find something comfortable between 25 and 35. Okay, from there, after you found something in here between 25 and 35, then start to play with the boost a little bit. Typically, you only need like a 1 to 2% boost, but you know, you can always turn down this really low and then crank this up a little bit higher. But start with just these until you find something that's actually halfway comfortable and feels like good. Like, man, that feels good. I tracked that, and man, I felt the aim assist right there. Okay, for your aim down sight, this is a much smaller window, but typically you'll find something comfortable between 7, between 7 and 14. So start there, and again, play with boost afterwards. On linear, a lot of people crank up the dead zones, maybe to like 10%. I have, when I play on higher linear sense, like my dead zones are typically on 10. But again, if you increase these, it'll help you get more control over like a higher sense. You're supposed, a lot of people say crank them as low as possible. If you can, like, you know, if you can do it and you don't get stick drift, just put them as low as possible. Just play around with it. Like, just don't put them higher than like 12 to 14. Don't go higher than that. That's a little bit too much. Okay, so that is kind of just like a basic breakdown of optimizing your sensitivity. Now, the last thing that we are going to touch on and talk about is aim assist. So for aim assist, like really starting to understand it, let's start with like a little bit of like a foundation of understanding like what aim assist does. In reality, aim assist is assisting you by correcting some of your mistakes, okay? The reason is because on controller, like, you're just using your thumb. Mouse and keyboard, you have a whole arm to like manage. This is not about mouse and keyboard versus controller, stop that. But the biggest thing that you can learn to start looking for is something like this. So I'd recommend like fully turning and getting familiar with your own speed first, okay? See how fast it is, up, down, nothing happening, there's no target. So when you become familiar with how fast your sensitivity feels, just normally, you can start to see it, because aim assist simply slows you down, okay? Aim assist is going to slow you down. So you're coming in, and then it slows you down as you get closer to the target, okay? Now, the thing about it is when it slows down and gets on the target, you come to a place where you actually all of a sudden just have a lot more control. And with it, now you're kind of letting the aim assist lead you in the fight, if that makes sense, okay? So again, look at this. This is my normal speed. But look, when I come close to him, I have a moment where it just slows me down. Okay. Let's see. Here's this. And it slows me down. See that? There's like a stick that happens. And it slows me down. And the goal is to just get kind of familiar with this. And you still want to be like tracking them as well. But again, the whole idea is that you're trying to figure out what triggers this like sticky slowdown thing. Okay. Now the goal should be that you're tracking them as well. Aim assist is not going to do everything for you, but the biggest thing is learning what it feels like. If you do enough of this, like I'm telling you, so I hear some people say I have no idea, like when the aim assist is active, you can, this is so easy to feel once you like just come like do this. Like literally just come in here, look at this bot. And I would recommend as well, I have a custom crosshair on, but seriously, turn this off so visually like you can feel it, you can like really sense it. Okay. Now, once you start to like really feel when the aim assist is active, again, then you want to start throwing fighting in the mix as well. Now, this is where like optimal binds comes in. I'm going to show you guys an example really quick of optimal binds, back paddles, and tracking this guy while fighting versus not having optimal binds. Okay. So I'm just literally just abusing aim assist right here. Barely my tracking at all. Now I'm going to do it like how I used to do. Like I'm not being dramatic either. This is like no aim assist basically. Why? Because I'm taking my thumb off the joystick for every single time I jump. Now, what I would recommend, if you don't have like optimal binds, figure out a way to not jump as much. Like seriously, if you have to like crouch, do whatever you can not to take your right thumb off the joystick during a fight. Okay. Again, I'm literally using normal binds right here, just jumping around and trying to stay on the target. It's literally night and day. Then I'm going to go back to just normal. Okay. Night and day. I can literally jump as much as I want and do as much as I want. And that aim assist, I'm like leaning into it, feeling where it's like taking me. Well, and again, it's like I'm tracking the opponent, not just like the aim assist, but it's like a both and, okay? But that's the example right there. Now, a couple quick tips really quick when it comes to aim assist. So, well, maybe just like one more, we'll see. But if you ever find yourself like you get used to the aim assist and you're in a moment where you feel like it's like not there anymore, quick tip is understanding that guns have first shot accuracy, right? Which means that when you ADS, it'll kind of reset the aim assist for you. So sometimes like if you're like shooting, just like ADS a couple times really quick on your target. And sometimes, well, a lot of the time actually, you'll kind of reset the aim assist to being active again, okay? But the biggest thing is you have to play around with it to be able to know when it's active and to know how to use it to your advantage, okay? All right, guys, and that is going to wrap the video up. I hope that the right controller players find this and that it helps you out. If you found the video helpful, smash the like button, leave a comment. Most importantly, subscribe for more Zero Build content like this. I am MF Buddy. Until next time, GG's.